Hi, Dr. Prathik. Welcome to Coffee with Cre-AID. It's a real pleasure having you over here. Dr. Prathik is an orthopedic surgeon, a consultant with the Bangalore hospitals in Jayanagar, specialized in sports medicine, joint care and trauma care. We're delighted to have you here with us. Today, in our first episode of Coffee with Cre-AID, we'd like to talk about few subtle advancements in the field of orthopedics and rehabilitation pertaining primarily to splints and immobilization care, and how you are seeing this market being revolutionized, how patients are getting benefited, and how Cre-AID Labs as an entity in this space is operating with our innovation mitral splints, and how you see that working out here as well. Welcome, it's a pleasure having you here, and thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you, Amartya. Thank you for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you, to be working with Cre-AID for such a long time. And I've been wanting to do this because I wanted whatever we are doing is something, an amalgamation of technology and science backed up with good science, and it's something which is so new, and that too in a developing country like India, so which we needed. So I wanted more people to know that, more clinicians, more doctors, and more people to know about what we are doing and how we are bringing the change in a patient's life, maybe before the surgery or post-surgery, in aspect of recovery, in aspect of mobilization. And that's where mitral splints, which is being done, primarily that's the main backbone of us, the Cre-AID Lab. 100%. So I wanted to speak about that, maybe have a friendly chat with you and let the people know about it. So
awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah, same here.
Just to add on, I love the statement you made about, when you said in a developing country like India, we need to get these things out there. I love your opinion on something that, as a startup founder, I find myself completely immersed in technology most of the time. And we work very closely with surgeons, with a lot of healthcare professionals across the spectrum. The one thing I've noticed is India is not far behind at all, particularly in the healthcare and health tech space. India is miles ahead of its competition because healthcare systems outside of India are so convoluted. But in India, we have a lot of freedom to play with this. My opinion is that I feel in India, the problems we face are more of coordination between healthcare professionals and technology providers, rather than is India advanced enough? What do you think about that?
I resonate with you so completely, actually, Amartya, because I always go with the saying that grass is always greener on the other side. So all my patients or whoever comes, they always think that we don't have this technology, we're far behind, or we don't have this. But only since we've traveled, we've been fortunate to have traveled. I've gotten my specialization, good training overseas, and I've come back. So I see that we are no way behind. And the minds like you and you guys, when I met you, when I spoke about the whole the birth of the Cre-AID Lab, how it came in place, because as you said, technology is far, for me, science, or I would say physics or math and all of this is extremely, I'm too way far behind. But when that comes into your medicine, into your field, and you're about to bring a change in patient's life, that makes whole difference. And I've seen that, and this knowledge has to be spread across. And we have all the amenities, we have the brains, we have the technology, we have everything needed, and much at a much lower cost. If cost is the main pertaining factor, we have that as well. So why do we have to go for things or brands which is manufactured abroad, get that over here when we have it by ourselves?
Absolutely.
And this is something which is totally what we are doing it with our patients. With you guys is totally different. With the material what we use, that obviously I think we'll be speaking about that in detail. That's something totally different, and I honestly believe, and I'm very optimistic, that that's groundbreaking, and that has to be channelized and gotten across to a bigger and better population.
Absolutely. I remember walking into Bangalore hospitals recently. It got renovated, right?
Correct.
And it's a fabulous setup. Just the feeling I got walking into the reception area, I was waiting there for about 30 minutes, and I loved it. Medical tourism, massive in India. A lot of people outside are coming here, and it makes sense because the level of care is so good. So I'm really glad we resonated on this, because
True.
I think we've reached the golden age of innovation that can happen in this part of the world. Awesome. So let's segue into our first segment then.
Let's get started.
Which is orthopedics and the rehabilitation context. So let's build a little more context about what orthopedics is. So a common misconception that even that I face when I deal with patients who are sent to me by orthopedic surgeons is orthopedics study in medicine which just deals with fractures and bones, or is there more to it? A common misconception is that orthopedicians are only called in whenever there's a fracture. But is there more to it? Is there more to orthopedics in the context of modern medicine? I'd love to know more about that.
Thank you. I mean, that's such a great question, and I think before I start, one of the main reasons why I agreed to have this, a podcast or a conversation with you is because usually we see a lot of medicos speaking or doctors speaking. This is something which, as you're completely not in from this field, although you're doing a lot to this field and for patients, but you're not from this field. So you come from a common man's perspective, so you would want to know what obviously our viewers, our listeners are there, they would want to know about it. So, and this is the best way to start with. So I mean, ideally when you're a kid, so was when I was a kid, I had a fracture and they said, okay, orthopedic surgeons, and I remember them being all macho and pulling and putting a whole cast and slab. So that's the whole notion, okay, which pretty much is. So orthopedics, when you go to a scientific term, when you break down, it's all about bones, okay. So orthopedics is about bones. So it's, when you start with it, it's about your fracture, your treatment, your healing, maybe surgery, not surgery, when it's not surgery, splinting, all of that. But orthopedics is way, way beyond that as well. It's basically your basic essence of life. That's your coordination, that's your mobility, that's your biomechanics.
Yeah.
So orthopedics is important. Why is it important? Because it is not only a pathology. So when I say a pathology, it's only if you have an injury or you have some problem with you. But orthopedics is not about that. You might not have injury, but you might have to do prevention of that injury because you are filled with the bones in the body. So all your mobility from a small joint in this thumb to your whole hip joint or a knee joint or a shoulder joint, every joint and every bone has to move, and that's the mobility. So it's basically, I always tell, so say for a man who comes, if you are into automobiles, so guys who are into automobiles, or girls and ladies who are more into household work, so you have you're a mechanic. So unless and until you don't really do good service of the thing, it is not going to work long, okay. It is going to go say, boss, it's not happening.
That's true.
So your joint or your body, it might sound very cliche, buddy, but it is exactly like that. You've been toiling, you've been giving so much of pressure to your body, to your joints, you forget first of all to take care of your health, and now with your activity and with your lifestyle, so one fine day you say, boss, I just can't do it. But the only difference is, when our ancestors, that one fine day used to come at 70 and now it's at 25, doctor, my back hurts, doctor, my knee hurts. I mean, dude, at 25, I don't want a patient to be saying that. So that's the essence of orthopedics, is your whole body has to be taken care of. And there are multiple modalities which patients are not really aware of. And I really wanted to make it more, communicate to patients with multiple modalities. And if even a small injury is there, it's not like age old, okay, 40 years back our doctor used to do that. It's not wrong. That was good as well. That was what it was given in the books. But we have better things where you can get back to your normalcy quite faster. And I think that's when the splints and what you guys have done such a phenomenal job comes into place.
Absolutely. I think I completely resonate with what you're saying, because I myself have been a victim. I'm not a victim, I caused it to myself, of bilateral meniscus tears and bilateral ACL tears.
Yeah.
So I was somebody who was incredibly active. I used to run half marathons, play sports, football, cycle. The minute I got that tear, it was 1 year gone from my life. But I always remember what my consulting orthopedic surgeon told me. He said, don't go for surgery because you don't have an extreme tear yet. I can operate if you want, but focus more on conservative management, because if I operate now, there's no guarantee that you won't tear it in 2 weeks. And that advice, so right now after everything, I'm back to playing football, I'm running again, I feel stronger because I listened to that advice, and I'm forever grateful. And that brings to light how holistic it really is, right? It's not just about mending what's broken, it's about thinking about the future. How can your life be better? And I resonate because I'm not 25, I'm 27 now, and I feel closer to 50 than ever, right? But yeah, so I think this sets a good context for what we want to talk about. That is, so you took up orthopedics and then you got into sports medicine. Can you tell us a little more about your journey and what motivations you have had as you have journeyed through your career in this manner?
Definitely. I think I had mentioned to you prior also when
Yes,
when we first met. So when I joined my medicine, my undergrad, I did that. I was very passionate. First of all, passion, how you're passionate about this beautiful place, what you've done here, the same passion I had. And then I was hardcore. I wanted to be a surgeon. What is a surgical? Not like a general surgeon, anything with surgery. And my family, nobody comes from a medical background. So then I spoke to people. Ortho was something which is interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe also because we orthopedicians, we always call ourselves as, we are quite, we have that thing in our air, we are the rulers of the whole thing. We are like, I always tell that we are the dancers of the medical fraternity, because we bring that flair, we have that charisma and all of that. And I've seen all my consultants like that. So I was like, dude, I need to become like that. So, when you grow up, and then when you start see basically what is it, right? So when the patient comes in, walks in with pain, and then when you're able to bring that change, okay? So I always say that, it's not about just changing, it's giving that quality of life. So you give that quality of life. So say 8 years, 10 years, the patient, you can see that paradigm shift right next day.
Correct.
That's a great thing. So that really brought me. And again, as I said, orthopedics is only, obviously surgery is the main thing. I'm a surgeon. I love to operate. I love to bring that change in patients' lives. But also there are so many other things what I do about mobility, so coordination. When I thought all of that, and also you need to be smart enough. So when I saw things coming up, sports medicine and sports surgery is a very good branch where a lot of it's untouched. Although it is, but not compared to the other things. So I said, why not? And also me being a sports person myself, so I said, chalo, let's go for it. That's the shift what caught my mind. And then also to tell you, sports medicine, it's basically, people say that, okay, it's only for athletes or soccer players or cricket players. Okay, you're a sports surgeon or sports physician. Are you going to be tied up with an IPL player team? I can be, but it's far beyond that as well. Because all of us, so in this room of this beautiful, people who are out here, 3 out of 5 people would have injury of the shoulder. They have pulled their back, they have their heel pain, they have a knee pain. So it's not only for sports people, and it's not only age pertained. It's not at all, what you call specific to one age. Chalo, 60, you're 60, you have pain. No, you're 20, you have pain, you're 15, you have pain. And it's not always related to an injury. It may be, your whole biomechanics, your muscle, you're not training that muscle well. It's basically lifestyle, a lot of IT individuals, a lot of doctors, you name it. Whatever lifestyle, if you're not really loading and unloading your body properly, you're going to do that. And that's when my sports medicine knowledge, my surgical knowledge, my rehabilitation knowledge comes in place. So that's the reason I would say that's my journey of how I ended up here. Then I took my specialization, I went places, learned by the best, and then I'm back here, sitting next to you, sipping a coffee, and then having this wonderful conversation.
That's good. It's a very interesting journey. I don't know how applicable this is, but there's a fun tidbit I read in a research article recently. I was just doing some research about what is the word for it? Measurements of the limbs and everything. I forgot the word for it.
Axis or something like that, So basically
anthropometry,
yeah.
So Indian individuals in general had very good anatomical structures of the foot. It was between the 50s and the early 2000s that changed because of the footwear that we were wearing. So I just had this thought. I see as the middle class rises, as the per capita income rises, people are buying more luxury items like Birkenstocks and everything. I'm very curious, and insoles are becoming so prevalent. Very curious to see how India shifts from a very large population that has flat foot and plantar fasciitis, as they make these lifestyle changes and investing in products like this, moves into a population that might mitigate this in the next few generations.
maybe when I spoke to you also, when we are developing these insoles, I mean, by the way, patients are absolutely happy with the insoles that you've provided. It's also that, you're training. So when I got trained from my boss back in Pune, so he used to always enter, people say they have hip pain or back pain, he used to first look at their foot. They have a flat foot, which usually is missed.
Yeah.
Right now also it's missed. A lot of people. So that is something, because there are multiple scientific terms. So basically, one you have is congenital flat foot. You're born with that.
Yeah.
One is a developmental flat foot. That's your activity, maybe your weight gain or you're standing for long, any of that sort. Okay.
Yeah.
So you tend to see. Okay, you don't really tend to see as well. But now I'm so used to the first person I see that foot. I'm like, damn, they have a flat foot. You have a flat foot. It's become like a foot fetish, man. I look at the foot and I say, okay, they have a flat foot.
That's where the problem starts.
Exactly.
Right? I had back pain.
Exactly. So you have a back pain, you go get your MRI done. MRI is sorted.
Yeah.
Chalo, take medicines. You're holding medicines. You have knee pain. Knee is sorted. Again, chalo. But the actual problem is there. The root cause is there. The root is there. And you're loading your entire body there.
Yeah.
So that is very important. And that's when, before, as you rightly said, before people used to be, chalo, ortho slippers, we'll buy ortho slippers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not bad. Ortho slippers are good, but it's not for you. Now, I can't buy one 32 sized pant and my waist is 36. I can't go and try to fit in a 32 pant into my design. So it has to be tailored specific for you, and that's customized for you. And exactly because, your science, there are a lot of science behind that. Sadly, in the market, there are certain things where they're just, for the heck of, selling it, people are just selling it, which is becoming a very difficult thing to break the barrier, to make it understand, to educate the patients.
Yeah.
And that's when I feel we need to step up, because we are healthcare professionals, we need to make justice to patients and get them what is the right thing they need to use it, like the insoles, orthotics, foot mapping, what we do, use it with the help of rehabilitation. And these certain small things, as you rightly said, I can see the shift in a country like ours, which is happening in the patient care, in the whole strata, what we're talking about, and that's amazing. So we need to make it more pronounced. We need to educate more amount of patients and people, and we need to work on that. I honestly feel, being the future of our country, being the young generation of our country, that's a big responsibility on our shoulders. So certain things like these, not just a flat foot or insoles, a lot of things like that, we need to make sure patients or people are educated the right way and they seek right treatment.
And it's getting better, honestly.
In any day, definitely.
I mean, I've seen a marked change in 5 years of running this company. The information with which people come to us now is much better than how they used to come to us years ago. But this is also a good point for us to pivot the conversation a little bit, because Cre-AID Labs specializes in orthotics, in custom orthotics. What has your experience been with custom splinting in your practice, and how do you see the market evolving and basic medical practice evolving to incorporate more technology like this?
Okay. So before we start with that, so for people who are listening or looking at this, Cre-AID Labs, Amartya is a very modest fellow, he would not speak about that. Let me step up and speak. So Cre-AID Labs, they primarily do with a lot of splints, not just regular splints. We use something called as mithril splints. So let me turn the tables and let me be the host for a small segment, and Amartya, welcome back. So could you just tell us about Cre-AID Labs? Could you tell me, you've already enlightened me, but I want more people to know about it, just not as your buddy or as your doctor who's been helping with my patients, but on a community basis. I want people to know about it. What exactly do you do? What is mithril material? What are the splints? Or if I'm coming today, why do I have to buy this for my patient or for my siblings and not some other splint, which definitely is, which I know that. I want you to tell the people.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Prathik. I'm so happy to be here on Coffee with Cre-AID. It's an interesting story. So I always consider myself to be an accidental founder. I think coming out of university, I was on track to do a PhD. But Satyam, my co-founder, was the one who pulled me out of that and said, "You're not meant for this." And I'm really glad he did. So this entire concept of custom orthotics, the inception happened when we were college students in Manipal. We were working with Kasturba Hospital at that point doing research, and working with the ortho department. We were exposed to a plethora of problems, from automated limb lengthening, body power, 3D printed prosthetics. Got a very interesting case where I think this was I forgot the oncologist, no, an endoscopic, a surgeon who was doing regular endoscopies. His finger was suffering from either trigger finger or some issue because of constant pressing. So he asked us, "Can you make me a splint for this?" And that baffled our minds because we just realized, both Satyam and I are mechanical engineers. There is so much application of mechanical engineering in the human body. It's crazy. Why is nobody working on this? As we finished our research and everything, this opportunity popped up where we had developed the mitral splints as part of our research and the fellowship that we had in college. An opportunity popped up where Satyam said, "Boss, do you want to maybe start a company and see where we can take this?" And I have to thank the family I've been born into and the privilege that I have as an individual to have had the liberty to say, you know what, let's do it. We have nothing to lose. And that's how Cre-AID Labs started. It was just a small idea which now become an obsession for us, because the deeper we went in, like you said, why should people care about this? Why are you here talking to us about this? It's because custom has always meant better. Custom has always meant that you can have that extra advantage that can make your healing better. And the reason custom has never meant access is because technology was the gap. But Satyam and I with Cre-AID have entered into a space where technology is no longer the gap. The solutions are there. Somebody has to be there to make that available. And that's how we started solving this problem statement of very simple problem statement. In today's day and age, why are people still using plaster casts for immobilization when they can have a better option? Outside India, this is there everywhere. Why can't we bring this to India? And as we jumped down this rabbit hole, we came up with this concept of mitral splints. So as you can see here, we have this flat shape, and this is heated. You can use hot water or a heat gun, and immediately this can be custom molded to a patient's hand in minutes. And the basic idea is, can we give them an extremely state-of-the-art product which can be used from post-op or from trauma care all the way to rehabilitation? One product, this can be reheated and remolded multiple times. It not only saves cost for the patient, it gives them a much better recovery journey. They no longer, studying in Manipal, I have seen situations where casts are opened and there are maggots inside. It's not easy. Why are people still using casts when there's so many better options available? Right? Splints are good for early mobilization, etc. I don't need to tell you this. You know this. But that's the story of Cre-AID. Our motto is innovate to enable. And we want to make our technology accessible and affordable to everyone. Which is why, we're growing, we're a little slow, but our core thesis is we want to make sure that our impact is heard, it's spread, and we are doing justice to the people that we're working with. So that is the vision with which we are building Cre-AID. That is the vision with which we want to connect with our community. And I know I wandered a bit, but I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. I'm so glad Satyam got you out of from your PhD. we have Cre-AID with us. And
if I did my PhD, you'd probably be 2 doctors.
Definitely, but this better off. Cre-AID with a doctor is much better off than 2 doctors and just breaking our heads. But on a serious note, I'm so glad what you mentioned, and that's the main reason. That's the core ideology that you guys at Cre-AID believe is why I started working with you all for my patient care, for my patient benefit, and touch wood, it's been phenomenal, and I'm so glad that you're doing this, and as you said, you're slow, but hey buddy, slow and steady wins the race. So always we got to be very true to our core and our values or a science. Okay, there's no point just hurrying it up. So make sure whatever we do, what we're doing it now, so is good, and it's got to benefit the patient and patient care, and bang, we're there.
Yeah. we get cases where we have to tell a patient, splint is not right for you. When they come to us of their own accord, and then we have to direct them to the respective doctor or to the therapist to get the right type of care.
I would just want to intervene. So when you said, there are a lot of things from the best friend to the worst enemy. Absolutely right. See, although patients, I can speak only for myself. Me at Bangalore hospitals, we have a very, very, we are like, the Hitlers. I say that you have to do this. You got to do this. I give my number. I go all out because I don't want patient to, get misjudged or don't follow the protocols. But still it happens. I say that you have to follow up in a month, they don't. But they continue with the same splint. Yeah. They continue the same slab. They say, chalo, doctor has told. And they have this notion, the more you keep, the fracture or the injury heals better. But they don't know. So, at the end of the day, what are we doing? What are we planning to do is to get you back to the normalcy, right? Yeah. And normalcy is your joint mobility. As I said, orthopedics, the basic essence is to give you mobility, to give you your quality of life. Yeah. If you don't have your basic mobility, say your elbow is just stuck. And then you say, boss, doctor, it's not going. It's just not going. It's not happening. I said, I always tell the initial phase is like a wax. Yeah. I always tell my patients. So, I hope I can convey that. It's like a wax or it's like a clay. So, say 3 to 4 weeks. You can mold it however you want it. But post that, once it gets set in, you just cannot.
That's true. Yeah.
You do whatever you say that no, the physio is not working, but the physio can't work after a point because if your body is not helping, there are so many adhesions in there.
Correct,
the world's best physio, the world's best surgeon cannot help you.
Nobody can do anything. Yeah.
I can again operate on you, but still I'm not able to give you the best result what I can give you in the first time. Exactly. 100%. So that time the splinting, the right amount of splinting, the right time, the duration of what we're using is very, very important. There are so many times patients have come, kid, I still remember back in my residency, we had put age-old proper plaster of Paris, and we put slab nicely, and I was so happy. Chalo, I did a great job, initial bit and of my residency days. And Bugger has been a good kid, but he said, chalo, it's itching. So he's not told anyone. He's taken a steel scale and he's kept on itching, and it's got an injury there. And he's never told that. And he's just done. And one fine day the mother says, doc, there's some foul smelling coming there. I said, should not happen, because there's a whole other entity called as compartment syndrome, which I told you also that which I would want to discuss in future. But
that's a very good point.
Exactly. Yeah. So that guy, I was, the night, it was 11 o'clock. I said, chalo, bring him right away. I see he's bruised himself. It's got infected. It was such a bad shape. The muscle was, exposed. Now, luckily, touch wood, with God's grace, I think the kid is doing good. We intervened. But that is something which is, if we don't keep checking on it, for that, the patient needs to keep coming. Now in that there are a lot of logistics which involves. True. Now I don't have patients who stays in 5 minutes down the road. There are a lot of patients who are outstationed. Okay, and with the Bangalore right now, what we have, even in the city also, I can't expect them to just come. Exactly.
It's easier to go to Mysore.
Exactly. Although we all love this city, but there are certain things which we know that logistically it's very hard. So that's when this thing becomes very difficult, right? When you put a cement slab, you're always round the clock. You're thinking that is everything okay? Like the kid is okay. Yeah, exactly. You can't see that.
That's actually probably trying to solve. I think you have the transparent splints.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's seeing this thing. One of the biggest feedbacks we got from doctors was, I can't see what's happening inside. I can't see the bruising. I can't see how, if I put stitches or anything, how that's healing. Of course, dressing and everything will be applied. But post that, first thing a transparent splint does is it makes the patient feel it's a little nondescript, Second thing is it also improves visibility of what's happening underneath. That's what we've tried to build with this. I'd love to get your opinion on what you feel.
No, very true. The first time when you showed me itself, so I'm sure that, I would want people to see also how we convert this material, the material, the whole thing, how it is done. It is molded. So when I got this done also for one of my patients as well. So see, now you can't speak on behalf of everyone. Because you're dealing with patients, you're dealing with bodies. Obviously you've seen the shift. Yeah. You're a mechanical engineer. Now you're dealing with things with patients. It's it's a different ball game altogether. I cannot speak to a patient who is who not, because obviously I'm not able to see the wound. But say after the wound care was done, so 2 weeks the wound care was done, my patient came to me and we put this. So it's much, see, the basic ideology of splinting is it has to be snugly fit.
Yes.
Obviously this is not my hand, so it's not snugly
It's
fit.
there.
So but in this splinting what you guys have developed, so it takes the shape of the patient,
Okay.
which resonates with the most basic ideology of the science of splinting.
Yeah.
What we do with plaster of Paris or any other
Yes,
cement
yes.
slabs.
Yes.
So it takes the mold however we need. So I want a volar slab, it can take that of that.
Correct,
I
yes.
want a thumb spica splint, it takes that of that. I want my sure Amartya. So basically, I mean, splinting is what you call to start with. It starts if you have had an injury or a fracture. So what you're taught, it's like what you call damage control or a
Yeah.
basic what you do when you see someone injured. So you just take a paper, you roll it with a dupatta,
Yeah.
or you take a plywood thing and you roll it with a dupatta.
Yeah.
That's because it's not dangling in there. So
Yeah.
basically that's splintings. So that the word the splinting comes from there. So you're giving some sort of immobilization, also some sort of support. So that's the basic splinting before they reach the hospital. Once they reach the hospital, what we have the age-old, most classic, and that is the POP. That's the plaster
Yeah.
of Paris. What we be using, that's the splinting. What you call the cement slab, you say. Then you have something called as a casting. Casting is again you are completely molding it so that there's no mobilization. You're not opening it up when you know that this needs to be in place for 4 weeks to 6 weeks. This is what I've been learned. So this is the most basics of orthopedics. So the splinting and casting and all of this. So over time with revolution, so we have changed so many other things. So initial thing always it's always known that splinting is only when a fracture happens. Okay, but it's not the case. So splinting is basically for anything. There's a nose splint. It's not the nose fracture. It's after surgery or after a correction of your
For
nose. It
positioning.
doesn't come back. It doesn't get back to the place. So there's a certain period of time, I would suggest,
Yeah.
where there's healing happening. So you need to give that extra little care. Make sure that it's in place. So those are splints again. You have wrist splints. You have knee splints. So there is a whole array of things. So how it happens. So when I speak about that, so a splint, when you're splinting a bone alone, a long bone, it's easy. But when you're splinting with a joint involved, which is the most common, I mean 99% a joint is involved, because when you're casting or you're splinting, the most basic what we've thought is always got to include a joint above and a joint below.
Yeah.
So that's why you have below knee
3-point
slabs.
fixation,
Exactly.
yeah.
Below knee, above knee. There's a whole lot of scientific things which I don't want to dwell into, but that's the whole process. So basically we have done, and I continue to do a lot of slabs, lot of plasters, lot of things which is the most basic, which we continue to, because that's when you give some rest, even there's no fracture. So I would suggest, so day for yesterday, I'll just give an example. Day for yesterday, it was very unfortunate stampede what happened after this amazing victory of our RCB.
yeah.
So late night around 11:30 I get a call. So one patient is there who's just come from the stampede. So he was trying to climb the gate, fell, he's twisted his ankle.
Okay.
He comes to me, the ankle is swollen. It's very badly swollen. And I get the x-ray and there's no fracture. There's no bony tender point. But there is swelling. Now, why does the swelling happen? There might be an ankle
Yeah.
ligament injury.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not a person who just jump into then, boss, get an MRI done, because there's no point. There's a lot of swelling there. If you do a MRI, there's so much of fluid edema around it, you will not get the exact results.
Correct. Yes.
So what are you supposed to do at that time? You have to splint him.
Yeah.
Because now if you're going to leave him like this, he is going to dangle it around.
Correct. Yeah.
So that there's micro motion happening.
Yeah.
There's micro trauma happening. There's wear and tear time and again. Now if I'm not going to give rest to that muscle or that joint, it's not going to heal.
Yeah.
He's going to continue in pain. So what I did, I put him on a slab, what you call as a below knee POP slab or a plaster of Paris slab. I've told him, boss, rest for 5 days. Get good, medicines so that your swelling comes down. Keep your leg high above 2 pillow elevation. Keep the slab on. You can walk because you don't have a fracture. You can walk if you're permissible with the pain. It's okay. But if you come back and see me after 5 days, your pain is gone, the splint goes off. So basically why I gave you this clinical scenario is because splinting is not only for the notion of fracture. No. So splinting can be so many things, and that's where it comes in place. So the whole shift when I mentioned about the splinting, so before fracture it's okay, but after surgery we still splint it. When you're doing that, when you have the splint in place, so a lot of patients continue, they follow our results, but splinting also has its cons. So many pros, I said there is certain cons of immobilization, which gets into stiffness. So this is the whole process of how splints fall in place in an orthopedic care. So it can be, a small trigger thumb, as you're mentioning about the respected surgeon in Manipal. It's a trigger thumb. You need splints. You have what you call plantar fasciitis. So not splinting, but specific orthotics is needed.
Dynamic.
Exactly. Dynamic orthotics is needed. You have a bunion. You have a bunion splint for that. You have, what you call knee splints, specific knee splints. You have osteoarthritis at the beginning phase. You have splints for that. So splints play a very huge role. When I say huge, it's basically for a patient rehabilitation as important as is an orthopedic surgeon, a clinician, and a physiotherapist or a physical therapist. A splinting, the proper right way of splinting is very important. And that has to be catered to the patient when it is needed. I can't just go and put a volar slab. No, there are multiple different splints. Do the patient know that what they're putting it? I'm not judging the doctors. I'm sure all of them they're well trained. This one, but one or two they don't know what they have been put. The patient, a volar slab or a thumb spica slab, a splint, a wrist splint. So those are important, and we need to educate the patient, the common man, regarding that.
I think that's a great point. I mean, of course, I don't have enough clinical experience, but there was ever so often we get a case where a person has been splinted, but they've not gone for the follow-up. So that splint, let's say, you've had a flexor tendon injury, right? You have been splinted for 3 to 4 weeks, but the person has continued to wear the slab for 6 to 8 weeks because they've not gone for the follow-up. When they go for the follow-up after 8 weeks, they come back with such a stiff hand. It's a sad truth that while, as you mentioned, a splint can go from being your best friend to your worst enemy.
Very true.
We get cases where we have to tell a patient, splint is not right for you. When they come to us of their own accord, and then we have to direct them to the respective doctor or to the therapist to get the right type of care.
I would just want to intervene. So when you said, there are a lot of things from the best friend to the worst enemy, absolutely right. See, although patients, I can speak only for myself. Me at Bangalore hospitals, we have a very, very, we are like, the Hitlers. I say that you have to do this. You got to do this. I give my number. I go all out because I don't want patient to, get misjudged or don't follow the protocols. But still it happens. I say that you have to follow up in a month, they don't, but they continue with the same splint. They continue the same slab. They say, chalo, doctor has told, and they have this notion, the more you keep, the fracture or the injury heals better. But they don't know. So, at the end of the day, what are we doing? What are we planning to do is to get you back to the normalcy, right? And normalcy is your joint mobility. As I said, orthopedics, the basic essence is to give you mobility, to give you your quality of life. If you don't have your basic mobility, say your elbow is just stuck. And then you say, boss, doctor, it's not going. It's just not going. It's not happening. I said, I always tell the initial phase is like a wax. I always tell my patients. So, I hope I can convey that. It's like a wax or it's like a clay. So, say 3 to 4 weeks. You can mold it however you want it. But post that, once it gets set in, you just cannot.
That's true. Yeah.
You do whatever you say that no, the physio is not working, but the physio can't work after a point because if your body is not helping, there are so many adhesions in there. The world's best physio, the world's best surgeon cannot help you.
Nobody can do anything.
I can again operate on you, but still I'm not able to give you the best result what I can give you in the first step. Exactly. 100%. So that time the splinting, the right amount of splinting, the right time, the duration of what we're using is very, very important. So, there are so many times patients have come, a kid, I still remember, back in my residency, we had put age-old proper plaster of Paris, and we put slab nicely, and I was so happy. I did a great job, initial bit and of my residency days. and Bugger has been a good kid, but he said, "Chalo, it's itching." So he's not told anyone. He's taken a steel scale and he's kept on itching, and it's got an injury there, and he's never told that. And he's just and one fine day the mother says, "Doc, there's some foul smelling coming there." I said, "Should not happen." Because there's a whole other entity called as compartment syndrome, which I told you also that how, which I would want to discuss in future. But when
that's a very good point.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that guy, I was the night, it was 11 o'clock. I said, "Chalo, bring him right away." I see he's bruised himself. It's got infected. It was such a bad shape. The muzzle was, exposed. Now, luckily, touch wood, with God's grace, I think the kid is doing good. We intervene, but that is something which is, if we don't keep checking on it, and for that the patient needs to keep coming. Now in that there are a lot of logistics which involves.
True.
Now I don't have patients who stays in 5 minutes down the road. There are a lot of patients who are outstation. Okay, and with the Bangalore right now, what we have, even in the city also, I can't expect them to just come. Exactly.
It's easier to go to Mysore.
Exactly. Although we all love this city, but there are certain things which we know that logistically it's very hard. So that's when this thing becomes very difficult, right? When you put a cement slab, you're always round the clock. You're thinking that is everything okay? Like the kid is okay. Yeah, exactly. You can't see that.
That's actually a problem you try to solve. I think you have the transparent splints there.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's seeing this thing. One of the biggest feedbacks we got from doctors was, I can't see what's happening inside. I can't see the bruising. I can't see how, if I put stitches or anything, how that's healing. Of course, dressing and everything will be applied. But post that, first thing a transparent splint does is it makes the patient feel it's a little nondescript, Second thing is it also improves visibility of what's happening underneath. That's what we've tried to build with this. I'd love to get your opinion on what you feel.
No, very true. The first time when you showed me itself, so I'm sure that, I want people to see also how we convert this material, the material, the whole thing, how it is done, it is molded. So when I got this done also for one of my patients as well. So see, now you can't speak on behalf of everyone. Because you're dealing with patients, you're dealing with bodies. I mean, obviously you've seen the shift.
Yeah.
You're a mechanical engineer. Now you're dealing with things with patients. It's totally it's a different ball game altogether. I cannot speak to a patient who is who will not, because obviously I'm not able to see the wound. But say after the wound care was done, say 2 weeks the wound care was done, my patient came to me and we put this. So it's the basic ideology of splinting is it has to be snugly fit.
Yes.
Now, obviously this is not my hand, so it's not snugly fit.
Yeah.
So but in this splinting, what you guys have developed, so it takes the shape of the patient, which resonates with the most basic ideology of the science of splinting. What we do with plaster of Paris or any other cement slabs. So it takes the mold however we need. So I want a volar slab, it can take that of that.
Correct,
I want a thumb spica splint, it takes that of that. I want my elbow to be in mid prone, in complete supine, in complete prone, you can do that. Also, what is more important is that it gets, patient, it's very light. It's very light and patient will be able to do their activities. So whatever, once they're discharged or once they head back home, so my patients, touch wood, are very happy because they feel that it's a part of their system. They're able to do that. They don't have that taboo that okay fine, there's a splint, it's heavy, and also it affects the other joints when the slab is too heavy, right? So it takes a toll on your shoulder joint. So it starts subluxating and your movement becomes very hard. So this works a lot on that. So that's when I believe
that's great because I can give another splint.
True, exactly. So I keep forgetting that I'm speaking with the founder and the guy who sells the splints. So I'm sorry. So it depends on how many more splints I give. But jokes apart, so that comes in place, and that's very important. So this is the whole shift that I've seen. So I would just want to say that when I came across with your team, and that was out of fluke, and then when we sat down, when I understood the science, and when I visited your warehouse, the whole functioning, how this happens, why I was keen that chalo, I can inculcate this with my practice and help my patients at Bangalore hospitals and my patient care was mainly solely because it is durable. It's got a great tensile strength, okay, which is very important for people to know as well, because people might be like, how can this, it looks like a plastic thing, it looks like a plastic thing, but it's
strong.
It's strong. That's, I think, one of the main thing for your
we did our lab testing. This turned out to be 5 times stronger than synthetic
exactly
fiberglass
exactly
casts.
And I think the mithril, the what you call your element, what is there, it's known to be strong,
engineered right.
Exactly.
So this is actually, I mean, if you like go into the science of this a bit, I love talking about this. Could I? No, not that one. Yeah. So for example, if you have your flat one, you'll see this is really malleable. But when this is molded into shape, because of how it's molded, it becomes really stiff, it becomes really strong. And I think that's what we've nailed down. We're using a hexagonal pattern. We're doing all of these things to, number one, reduce the material, reduce the material wastage that will occur, reduce the weight that is on the patient, but we don't want to compromise on the strength. How do we keep it as light as possible? So that's why actually the etymology of the name mithril, right? Have you seen the Lord of the Rings by any chance?
I have.
Yeah.
So when last time I spoke also, when we said that it was all the mythological or all of this, it is it derived from there, right? Something
so
of that sort.
Satyam and I are heavy Lord of the Rings fans. I've grown up watching LOTR. In fact, the first time I watched LOTR was in Urvashi cinemas.
Okay.
In Bangalore.
Correct.
When I was a kid. But there's a material in the Lord of the Rings called mithril. It's worn by Bilbo Baggins. It's a very light armor. And he says his famous line, light as a feather, hard as dragon scales. And when we were making this, that was the thing that just stuck in my head. I was like, Satyam, we have to call this mithril splints because it's light as a feather, but it's hard as dragon scales.
So there was a main reason because I believe, and that's been my motto, because you got to be very strong with your roots, okay, of your science, but also inculcate technology. So I throughout my practice, not that I just go say, chalo, we'll take this. It's not like I'm going and on a spree, the robots we are like like a spaceship, nothing like that. But because right now we are in a place where we can use technology in healthcare at the right time, at the right place, and bring a difference. So when I came across you guys and started using this on myself first, I still remember we sat down and you used it, and I said, wow, I mean, it's amazing, because it's something which is so, it's got great strength, and it literally hugs your body. It's so snugly fit. And also, I think one of the best is, it can be, if I'm not wrong, we can change it as well, right?
You can reheat this and remold it.
Exactly. So you can do that. That's something which is very important. This reheating and remolding is so important because, could you just pass me that, Amartya? No, the long knee. So this is another case, I think I told you. So this is what, that. So this is like a long knee brace, what we use it. Yeah. So recently what ACL case I did. So usually we have a protocol where I give my patients 4 weeks of this long knee brace, because no mobilization on standing and walking, but then they can bend their knee. So after this, we need to shift to an ACL brace or a hinge knee brace. So what was so fascinating was we could convert the same brace into a hinge knee brace, which we did, and we could add the hinges around, and we can mold it. So because other braces comes as universal. It's a universal long knee brace. It's a universal so and so brace. This is tailored. So if I have a lag of extension of 5 degree, or if I have a flexion deformity, I know it's completely scientific terms, but why am I saying this? Because it's very important. And these braces, what I liked was not just for the look of it, obviously it looks very nice and very classy, but also it's quite malleable and it's very strong. You can convert this into a hinged knee brace, help with the thing, how much degrees you want, and you can keep converting it. That was something which is, I was taken, there was something which is new. It blew my mind.
I think I'm really glad you brought this up, because you remember when you were talking about how follow-up with the patient is something that's so difficult to do. That's also a problem we were trying to solve, right? Because we don't want our splints looking bad. When somebody says, I was wearing this splint for this long and I didn't recover, right? Even though our splint may not be at fault. So we figured, how can we make their lives easier? Not just the patient, but the surgeons as well. So we came up with this idea. If in ACL recovery, if I know that the patient is going to go through 4 weeks of this and maybe 2 to 3 weeks of a hinge knee brace and then go for free mobilization, why can't I convert this to that? And why can't I just make their lives easier? Right? For a marginal cost, I can get this converted to that. The patient is happy, we are happy, and we can ensure they come for a follow-up, because that is where the conversion will happen. Right? And that's what we tried, and I'm so happy that it's something that proved useful.
It did, and I'm glad this is something. That's why I say, see, this is not rocket science. Basically, we are being true, or we are sticking to our science, to our roots, the basic of immobilization to mobilization, how much this, but we are using a modality which is far better, far pronounced, and it definitely gives more benefit for the patient.
Absolutely.
So that is what is needed. And it's also, when you see, not that cost is, it's very, cost is something which is a very debatable topic or very controversial, because some people say, boss, don't talk about cost, I want the best. There are a major chunk who says, cost is important, and if I say something, patients might say, like, you're just, marketing, because there are so many things which I don't want to get into. But this is when the same splint which can be reused, because otherwise what happens, a long knee brace, you're using it, and after like 4 weeks, boom, it's in the attic.
That's true.
This was something which was so good, you can use it, you can reuse it how you need it. All they have to do is just come again, give the measurements, the hinges are back in place, and in a day or two they get their whole thing, and they're using that again for around span of 12 weeks, and it's there. And already this brace knows your body mechanics, your muscle girth, you can change it, there are hinges, there are velcro straps.
Your body is used to it.
Exactly, it's used
not
to
a massive weight change.
Very true, very true. That's very important. And that's when the change I could see with the patient recovery and the patient care, and how they were very comfortable with the whole bracing system.
I think when you brought up price, which is a very important topic, it's something we have struggled with. How do we, because there have been people, we're not the first to do these things. A lot of companies have tried, they've come in here, they're still there, we're all experimenting. What I've realized about cost is it just needs to make sense. How do you get somebody to, because I know I bring this up a lot, but Birkenstock, right? It's not worth the money, in my opinion. Some people it might be, sure. But why do I still go and buy it, right? Because for some reason that cost makes sense to me. And learning from that, I just realized that value needs to make sense to the patient via cost. Because cost is something that can always be worked out. I can get very high volumes, I can drop my costs. But more importantly, I don't want to make it so cheap that the patient feels like it's a worthless product. I don't want to make it so expensive that somebody feels I can't afford it. It needs to be right. But I feel that is, I'd love your opinion on this as well when it comes to costing, right? How do you communicate that value to a patient? And I think one of the examples you brought up is the very fact that this can be converted from a static gaiter to a hinge knee brace is something which communicates that it makes sense to invest their money.
Definitely. And no, definitely, coming to your first question of this, convertible, definitely cost. Also, it's basically you're saving the environment. Basically, it's the age where we're staying at, what we are heading to. That's also something which we need to consider. If we are not more sensitive about that, if you're not thinking about that, that's going to be hard.
You're doing all the 3 R's: reducing, reusing,
exactly,
and
recycling.
So.
Second thing, see, cost. I just want to quote something. Cost. I believe that. So cost is something which is very specific, and I've always believed that, Amartya, when it comes to everything else, it's okay. Birkenstocks, Crocs, Skechers, anything, you name it, Zara, Armani, anything. So you can always have a second copy. I'll get from Bangkok or Malaysia or Thailand. It still looks the same. But buddy, you have one life and one health. So that, I don't think so. You can never compromise. And I'm glad. I'm just not saying because, touch wood, we are in a place where we come from, decent whatever family, but I've seen my patients. There are certain patients who come from very difficult background, and I know how much difficulty they come from. They, manage their funds, but they want the best treatment for their son, for their father, and I see that. They always say, doctor, idondu madkodi, nange bere deen ದುಡ್ಡು ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. See, that's a huge responsibility they're putting that. And when I say that costing, when you are giving the best treatment, it has to resonate with what price it goes in the manufacturing, whatever. Now, where does it work that you're just putting the cost on the patient's head is if it is not needed, and then you're telling you have to use this cast or you have to get this something done, some investigation done. That is when you're doing injustice.
100%.
So costing is very specific thing, and it is something which needs to be worked out on a multi-dimensional thing. But if patients are getting benefited, because we are talking about healthcare. Otherwise, you go to a mall today, you have it for 1,000. There you're getting for 800. You have 50% flat off. You go there. But boss, we can't do that with healthcare. But again, if it's really needed, if it's really indicated for the patient, then if it's making justice and giving outcomes, I have not seen anyone who says no, I will not do that. They all want the best when it comes to healthcare, because all that we do here at the end of the day boils down to health. Because tomorrow if your health is not there, boom, out. So I think cost is something which is very, very, specific and right. Whatever I have worked with you guys, I think you guys are on the right path. And
thank you. I mean, for both Satyam and I, as I told you, accessibility and affordability, right? We've come across a lot of predatory pricing, different markets, different segments. What we've tried to do essentially is make sure that our splints are affordable. Because we believe we have a responsibility. Right? We have come across an entire gamut of patients, very rich, very poor, middle class. But the one thing everybody wants is the best outcomes. So how do we we believe it's a business's responsibility to play their part in doing it. I have to protect my business, I have to make sure my costs are covered. But at the same time, can I do my best to make sure my product is as accessible? Right? We're figuring it out. I believe we're on the right track, but it's always conversations like this that help us steer correctly.
Definitely.
We've spoken a lot about orthopedics, splinting in orthopedics. But could you tell us a little more about how splints are used in different fields, maybe neuro or plastic surgery?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically my expertise is orthopedics, as injury prevention, injury recovery, joint care, definitely. But yeah, throughout my undergrad, what we know through our colleagues, splinting is a huge role in neuro specifically, because there it's life changing. It gives a whole new life. Okay, so when I say neuro, it's not just an injury. There are a lot of things. There are kids with special abilities and disabilities with some syndromes, and there are kids with cerebral palsy, there are kids with motor dysfunction and sensory dysfunction. There's a whole lot of array which I'm sure that you deal with. And so in that scenario, Amartya, there is no recovery or no treatment per se. There's no surgically they'll be fine. Okay, and sadly it's congenital, it's there. What in that scenario, that case, what the parent or the folks expect is not wonders. They don't expect the kid to just be normal. They are normal. I'm not saying anything. They're normal, but they want to do their basic activities, basic what they can walk and they can do their activities to some extent. The patient also seems independent. So in that, these splintings, age old, we didn't have much things. They always were dependent. So now we have a lot of orthotics, lot of splints where they can use, they can do their basic activities like eating or taking care of themselves and getting up and all of that. So I think the splinting there helps a lot. When I say it's not immobilization, there's a lot of correct me if I'm wrong, with dynamic splints or which are motorized. So basically they can have augmentation, exactly. So it's basically augmented. And with the physiotherapy, again, physiotherapy plays a major role in that scenario, because in physiotherapy, the physiotherapists keep continued movement and strengthening of the muscles. When the muscles, because otherwise, generally, what happens? We're all walking, we're getting up, we're doing our activities. So the muscles there's blood supply throughout and it's growing, there's tear, there's movement happening. When you are, just lying down, you're not able to load that muscle. You have to have an external force.
True.
So that's what a physiotherapist is going to do. They're going to strengthen the muscle. They're going to give continuous physio, and support is where Splint or a team like yours under the neuro or neurophysician or neurosurgeon's care, and the physiotherapist's care is going to come in place. They're going to give that support. So we didn't have major orthotics or limbs where they could support back in the days. But over the process we've had a lot of things, and exactly, and I saw a couple of your devices that you showed me. They're amazing, and we are still working on a couple of them to make it more advanced, so that it can support a lot of things. Also, splints, when I say orthotics, also comes in place where there is as artificial limbs, where patients have had amputations. Maybe it's a road traffic accidents, or it's a very bad infection or a gang. There are a lot of things. So there also the splinting comes. Not basically splints, they are prosthetics. So that also comes in place. So it's a whole entity altogether what we're dealing with. So it starts from as I said, a nose splint in a plastic surgery. As I said, plastic surgery, no splints are used. There are multiple other hand injuries. There are thumb splints. There are a lot of
it's such an umbrella term, no?
Exactly. When you say splinting, you just think of a limb. No, it's a whole lot of things that we're dealing with, and we are helping the patients get better and have a better lifestyle.
Absolutely. One case we did recently comes to mind. We were working with one of the rehabilitation hospitals, 2050 here in Bangalore. We got a case of a spinal cord injury patient, and bedridden. He was initially, just during the physiotherapy, they were putting him on the stand-up table. Very low degree of autonomy. They prescribed that, can you guys make a KFO for him, knee, ankle, foot ortho. So he goes from here all the way to the foot. Cut to 2 months. He's walking now, which is two amazing things: adherence and effectiveness of the therapy, and the outcomes of our splint. And I think we'll be dropping a testimonial from the patient soon. But I remember my clinical team, our physiotherapist had contacted us. She was just leaving 2050's rehab center, and she called and she said, "Amartya, you won't believe what happened. He's walking again." And she sent me the videos, and I was the happiest person, because you see your products actually making a difference. Like you said, in neuro, it's not about maintenance. It's about changing somebody's life. It was a great experience.
That adrenaline rush, when your physio called and told you, right, Amartya, the patient's walking, that's what I'm saying, that baby, I'm so prone or used to it, or all my doctor or healthcare professionals who work, they would resonate with that, because it becomes a part and parcel. Now you come from a different background, outsider into mechanical, and you are a part of us now. So when you give that thing, it's like patient has given up. So walking, which is so normal for us, for someone it is all that ever they want. Just walk, just go, just see sunlight, just be independent, because they know what's happening. They nobody want to be dependent, want two people to come take them in a walker or a wheelchair. So when you're doing that basic change, it's all they want. And that night you can go to sleep and say, I did something right. Because developing something like this, and also a physiotherapist, or consistency, sitting, going behind, making sure, not giving up, it's a lot. It's a big it's very difficult. It's a task. I would suggest it's a task, because I always say that my job is making sure everything is done right and following up, but every day going back and making sure it fits in is a good therapist and a good support from you and your team, or people who deal with this.
Health services, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a whole that's what I always say, and I believe, and I've told you also time and again, and that's been my motto, and it's helped my patients. So it's got to be a holistic approach. I just can't say that, boss, I'm going to come, cut open, fix it and leave, that my job is done. No, your job starts there. Your job starts there where you're going to communicate to the patient, tell them. Your job starts there when I'm going to speak to you, call you, Amartya, the patient needs this, you be in touch, we are going to work together in synchronization and do that. Your job starts there when you're going to speak to your physiotherapist. You're all in the same loop and working together. Unless until the patient says, doc, I think I'm good, I'm there. Maybe even a small injury. Nothing is small. Nothing is small. A small cut is also not, because it will be small for me because I'm seeing it every day. But for you or for someone who is seeing that, it's not small. Not going to hospital is not that you're going to the mall and just shopping. Everything comes with a big burden. They're thinking that anything can go wrong. So your holistic approach is very important, and that's where you come in place, where I come in place, and where some other therapist comes in place. We all work together in synchronization, making sure the patient has a better lifestyle is what makes the difference.
Very important theme in today's healthcare landscape: holistic healthcare, right? The double H's.
Very true, very true. And I believe
it's
that. I strongly believe that.
Very good changes happening. You see tertiary care centers really incorporating multiple aspects of healthcare to give a patient that holistic approach. It's going to be exciting to see what comes in the future.
It is very important. So the main reason why I came back and working with the Bangalore hospitals was tertiary care center and making sure everything is under one roof, giving to the patient the right, maybe from the entrance. So I say that, how you greet, how they leave. Even a dietitian plays such a major role. A psychologist plays such a major role, because you're just not dealing with. I always believe that a pain is not just a pain. A pain cannot be normal. I've mentioned that before also. It's a pathology.
Yeah,
it's a pathology. It's a physical pain or a mental pain. So nothing can be just say belittled and said, "Chalo, you'll be okay." You it might be okay for me, but not for you, buddy. So you got to dwell it and make sure it's right. And for that, a whole tertiary care center, making sure you are in the right place, in the right time, and in the right hands is very, very important.
That's true.
And I feel that, I really feel, and I'm optimistic, and I'm fingers crossed, I'm not wrong, in a country like ours, where we have great minds, where we have great talent, where we have the best skills, we need to inculcate this, make sure that we go in the right path, and I think nobody can touch us. Basically, we are untouchables. I would suggest that.
It's going to be an interesting journey moving forward. I, for one, am super excited about the future of healthcare. Talking about the future of healthcare, how, bringing it back to Cre-AID Labs, I often like to think that we're bringing the future of orthotics to medicine now, but I always have to correct myself, because the future is already here. This technology is here. So 10 years from now, how do you see the landscape of, let's say, splints in healthcare? How do you see it changing?
Amazing question, by the way, because I've always seen that. I always make sure that every time I see something, I think of the future, that what is going to be then, and how is that going to help me in my practice, in my lifestyle, everything. So 10 years from now, I would suggest healthcare per se, we spoke about it. Healthcare is going to be the main agenda, with the leaders, what we have, what we're doing it, fitness, the amount of importance what's been given, everything. I think healthcare is going to be great. People are going to be more pronounced. People are going to be more mindful. I would suggest that's the right word, mindful about it. Give more time and give more importance to lifestyle, fitness, and healthcare will be a big boom in the next 10 years for sure. In that healthcare, splinting or casts, I would foresee or analyze that it is going to be very prevalent. It's going to take a major space, much more, because right now splinting, casting, all of that, I know the importance because I've read about it. I know it because I know what importance it has it on prevention or recovery. But slowly we are leading to a place where we are telling a common man, we are telling the huge population that why splinting is important and how it is needed. And maybe, fingers crossed again, after this conversation, whoever is seeing this, people know that what is the importance of a splint like this, what is the importance of basic splinting, what we've spoken, how is it different from the other splints, and why is it important to adhere to the what you call protocols and the splints. Because I would like to summarize, the whole thing boils down to the same, that what is your output after anything, after pathology, injury in orthopedics, basically, that's a broad term, sports injury, trauma, fractures, replacements, everything post-op, what is your outcome? Is you need to get back to your normalcy. That's it. There is no saying that, I just want to be better. No, you want to be the best.
Yeah.
Because quality of life is very important. And healthcare is being the flag bearer from our country, because we are having, as I said, the best of the best minds and the best of the best skills. So healthcare cannot dip down anywhere. And for that, splinting and casting is one of the very major things.
It's a very basic. It's a very basic element,
it's a
but
very
plays such a big
basic.
role.
Yeah, it's a very basic element, but it's one of the major crux of a road to recovery.
Yeah.
And we need to make it available in such a kind that it's easy, it's not difficult, it's malleable, it's very what you call handy to patients, and it doesn't come in way, and yet it gives you a good recovery.
True.
And I think in 10 years down the lane, hopefully we'll again come back, have the 100th episode of Coffee with Cre-AID, and me and you are sitting, and that time we'll
Just
speak,
reflecting
that
and
we'll reflect
reminiscing.
back and say that, that day, luckily we saw the future,
Yeah.
and we spoke about splinting, casting, because it's a very, this is the first of, it's the fag end of our talk, but I would want to say this is the first and the foremost basic chapter in our orthopedic residency, splints and casts. And back then I didn't know the importance, but now I know the importance. And you know what? I always, my boss says that, you put a POP slab, or today I'm doing this splinting, me and Amartya are doing the splinting or casting, your whole, your clinical acumen or your knowledge is dependent on that. Because when they say that, boss, I got this from Cre-AID Labs with Dr. Prathik, and if it's clumsy and if it's not how it is supposed to be, you're just gone. It shows, because these are most basic things. So if this is right, and if we're working on this, and hopefully yes, we do circulate and tell the people the importance of this, and know why it has to be used, and people inculcate that, I would not even say 10 years, Amartya, 5 years down the lane, we are on the right path, and hopefully more and more people know about it, they use it, they're going to get that change in their lifestyle, going to help them from a small injury to a life-changing, movement, and I think that's going to be a small win to begin with, and hopefully we do that.
In the aim of manifestation, 5 years down the line, I hope Cre-AID Labs comes up with a box or something, some contraption, you can put your hand into it, and it'll just 3D print a cast or spray a cast around your hand within seconds.
It's all with you, buddy. You and Satyam have to do that, and any scientific, inputs, I'm there to help you. So I think let's see.
I mean, the only person I can experiment on is myself. So as I keep breaking my bones, I'll keep coming to you.
Touch it not, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think we're at the end of our question bank. But I think it'll be nice for our viewers to get to know a little more about you. You are a celebrity, as it is. Already got a good Instagram presence. Why don't we just start by understanding a little more, as in, what does Dr. Prathik do after or outside of orthopedics? What are you passionate about?
I think I already kind of touched upon that in the beginning itself. So people might think that doctors, they're always in the OR, they're very serious, and this. Yeah, definitely. Our day starts with surgeries. We see patients, everything. But if not, then I believe, since I've taken up this orthopedics, and one of the main reasons I mentioned you again also, we orthopedic surgeons, we think that we're the dancers of the medical fraternity, because we bring that mobility, that kind of coordination, and that kind of flair and charisma, definitely. So I'm passionate about arts, dance. I dance. If it's not, I take up some classes. I love to do from contemporary to Bollywood. That's and awesome. Some waltz. I've been trained. Okay,
awesome.
And I do play sports. So now pickleball is one of my favorite sports. So that's like a recreation that I go to. I read occasionally. That's very rare, from the books or the papers or journal articles. Other than that, right now with my time schedule and time crunch, but I'm very happy in the OR as well. If my case goes well, after the case is done, I might dance away there also. So I am, kind of, Pratik is this. I mean, you know me, I don't like to sit idle. I have to keep doing something. Make sure new things are done. Make sure that, the best of the best things are done. And keep pushing yourself. Maybe I would suggest, term myself like that. Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, that's really cool. Dance is something I've never understood it.
I'll help you, Amartya. Don't worry. A lot of things. You said that you're a camera shy, but I don't think so. People might be
There's
like.
There's a reason I looked at the camera. But even pickleballs, that sounds fun. I've tried it out with a couple of friends. I suck at it.
No,
but it's always fun to play. Let's catch up for the
yeah,
game
maybe
sometime.
Yes, definitely, yes.
Awesome. Next question. If you had to choose giving up your morning coffee or for a year or never picking up a tourniquet again, what would you choose? Because I think you're on your fourth cup of coffee.
Yeah, with the fourth cup of black coffee in my hand, so maybe the answer is quite clear. I cannot give up my coffee. Coffee is something I start my day with, and my day goes with that. I know it's bad. Not that I always have four cups of coffee, guys. Disclaimer, I just have how much is needed. Too much caffeine is also not good for health. But today, Amartya put me in such stress that I had to refill my fourth cup. But jokes apart, tourniquet, definitely for orthopedic surgeons, one of the best tool is tourniquet. But yeah, I can manage a surgery go smooth without a tourniquet as well. If there is, if there's no availability or it just goes off,
it gets somebody else in the OR
or anything, because you just have to be very precise with your soft tissue handling, which touchwood I've been trained that way. But coffee, I need my coffee.
That's great. So we're never going to have more coffee with Cre-AID.
Yes, definitely. Looking forward for it, and hopefully, this conversation was helpful and it reaches out for more people, and we bring about the change. As I said, change is something which needs to be being pushed, and I hope we do that. And thank you for having me, Amartya. This was amazing. I mean, this place has always been my favorite. I've come here twice and I've seen the whole, the warehouse, how the whole science works out. But hopefully more people know about this, and I want more clinicians and more doctors to use this, not just in Bangalore, although this is Namma Bengalurina product where it started and whole of this, but I want more doctors and more patients to see all across the country or wherever use it, inputs. Let's bring about the change, and I hope and pray that you guys get more and more technology driven and scientifically sound gadgets or splints and orthotics that will help a big array of patients, and they'll bring about a change in their lives. And I just wish you the best, buddy.
Thank you so much. Likewise, if anybody in Bangalore breaks anything, Dr. Pratik's the man for you. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. I'm looking forward to more interactions, and I think this has been great. I mean, for my first podcast, I think you really helped me out. It was a great conversation. And yeah, I think this sets a good tone for the future as well, right? I'm excited to collaborate, excited to innovate.
Let's get some good work going, and let's bring about some amazing change in the patient's lives and give some great work.
Definitely. Thank you, Dr. Pratik.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you everyone for tuning into our podcast today. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. I think I'm a YouTube personality now.
Definitely you are. But also I would like to add up that you need to tell people to follow, because that's one of the main modes. So they have a great Instagram page, so follow that so that they can see the insights of the different patient testimonials, how the work is done and what happens behind the scenes, how the whole splints are done, basic small tidbits where the patients can know what they are getting into, what they're using it. So I think that also I'm taking his limelight and saying that YouTube, Instagram, I think.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow Bangalore hospitals as well. Their setup is great. They have great surgeons, great atmosphere, and I think this has been great. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.